in the Northwest, in the Portland area. You guys know how we are. You got bikers happening right now. There's a bike ride. We're in the nature, you know. We're all about everybody's rights because everybody's opinion matters because my opinion stands tall. We are about that other person until they disagree with us. So, if we want to protect nature, as long as you're protecting the same spotted owl I'm protecting, we're good. But hold on, I'm in logging, and so I'm disagreeing with you. Now whose truth becomes real? That's an old example, so if you ain't grown up in the Northwest, you might not know it. But for those that have been here, you know. I just feel like we've gone through a lot, and there's been this real buildup about looking into yourself about truth. And like I said, we call it my truth. I figure out my truth. And your truth stands until something in life hits you that you can't control. And you say, oh, my truth is not right. Or, and this is the one I'm worried about, your truth doesn't stand as we stand before God. My truth, my choice, my rights, my thoughts crumble before the all-knowing and all-powerful God. Now, I don't want anybody to be scared, but I'm trying to give a reality. Because Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, the way I learned it was trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. Now, I can say it that way, but then I was challenged to sit back and say, Lord, how am I supposed to use this? And he was like, oh, I got something for you. Slow down. I was like, oh, what do you mean? Trust in the Lord. Slow down. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to slowly walk through 2 verses, but I'm going to probably do them almost backwards. So if you take notes, cool. If you don't, hopefully you understand what I'm bringing up. So to help build foundation, I'm going to tell you about 2 different verses. One of those verses is Deuteronomy 29:29. I'm going to actually even turn there because I want to make sure I read it to you correctly. And if you don't know where it's at, Genesis, Exodus, Numbers, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. And I'm almost there. This is the one I didn't bookmark, so I'm mad at myself. There we go. 28, 29. Now, I want you to catch how this is revealed to us. So, the hidden things belong to the Lord our God, but the revealed things belong to us and our children forever, so that we may follow all the words of this law. Okay. That speaks about truth being revealed. We get to own it. We get to pass it on. Now, the hidden things, those are still God's, but the things revealed, they belong to us. If you understand that, can you say amen? Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure we all there. The other one I want to bridge this to is James 1 and 5. It's basically letting us know, James is like, anybody who lacks wisdom, you can ask for it. He literally says, if anyone lacks wisdom, ask God. He'll give it to us generously. So I've got wisdom in the New Testament being poured out generously if I ask. And we're also told what the things that are revealed to be true, we can hold to those. The easiest way to see that is even if most of y'all got cell phones. Technology is an easy way to see it. The things we've understood, they built on and they keep advancing that idea. You can see that with the chairs we sit in and the cars we drive. But how about how our understanding of God is? I'm going to tell you, there's more resources today than there's probably ever been. And now they're even being put electronically so you can access them from everywhere. But do you think we're closer to God now? Just a thought, just something to think about. Now, I would normally like to sing, and I want to call my wife up, but I'm not going to do that to her. I love her. A part of me wants to call her up, y'all. There's an old song, and if you know it, please join me. It's simply called Hold to His Hand. Now, I'm not going to do the whole song because I'm going to read to you some of the things, but it starts, the hook, or the refrain as it was titled, hold to his hand, God's unchanging hand. Oh, hold to his hand, God's unchanging hand. Build your hopes on things eternal. Hold to God's unchanging hand. That's the repeated part. Now here's what the verses say. Time is filled with swift transition. Not of earth unmoved can stand. Build your hopes on things eternal. Hold to God's unchanging hand. Trust in him who will not leave you, whatsoever years may bring. If by earthly friends forsaken, still more closely to him cling. Covet not this world's vain riches that so rapidly decay. Seek to gain the heavenly treasures. They will never pass away. And then the final part of this says, when your journey is completed, if to God you have been true, fair and bright the home and glory your enraptured soul will view. And again, hold to his hand, God's unchanging hand. I'm trying to talk to you from the perspective of God's truth, and again, his wisdom, us trusting him. So I'm hoping I do that well. So absolutely, we can get ready with that first point. The first line says, trust in the Lord. Hold it. I would want to talk about why. And if we start talking about why, this sermon is going to go until tomorrow because, we got to trust in God. So scratch that. Yeah. We're actually going to start with, in all your ways, acknowledge him. If I was to put a different spin on it, obey God in every area. Now, I know everybody says they agree, but oh my gosh, I can feel even the weight in here. Obey him in every area? That's hard. Hold it, like do what he says do, period. Yeah, that's what it says. So the reason we want to start there is because we know in Proverbs 9 and 10, the first part says, hey, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Now, when we say fear there, we're not talking about scary. We're not talking about, I'm running away. We're talking about a proper reverence of who God is. He's God. So if we reverence him because he's God, that also means we're acknowledging that we're not. If we're keeping him reverenced in the right position, then we have to say, how is he guiding us? Why would we want to actively follow him? Because he's God. And I would say, I use the words actively. So it's like actively obeying him is one of the things, because I want you to think about it. And this is for you scholars out there. Yes, I'm talking to you scholars. God took time with Israel to create a whole sacrificial system and burnt offering system. He put it together. Yes. Yet after he's done all of that, he says, hold on, he didn't want it. What? And I'm going to turn, this is where I'm saying I'm going to do some flipping. 1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 22. Let me read to you what Samuel says on behalf of the Lord. He says, does the Lord take pleasure in burnt offerings and sacrifices as much as in obeying the Lord? Look, to obey is better than sacrifice. To pay attention is better than the fat of rams. Now, I'm not knocking what was ordained by God, but I feel like something must have shifted or been missed for God to have his prophet speak these words. But hold on, maybe I'm bugging out a little bit. But if you were to go to Ezekiel chapter 36, verse 26, it says, I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit in you. I will remove the heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. So let me say this coherently and clear. God wants an intimate relationship with you. The sacrificial system and burnt offering system works if you're coming to a God that you're reverencing and realizing my actions have broken this relationship. I'm broken before you, God, so let me be made right with you. And this animal doesn't quite measure up, but you've said this is allowed. So I'm going to trust that I can restore my relationship with you. But when you're just showing up Sunday after Sunday, when you're just engaging in communion all haphazardly, when you sit there and just, I got to pay my tithes, and you do all the checkbox things, are you actually taking time to reverence God and say, Lord, here's where my heart is. Here's where my struggle is. Here's where my praise is. And you're saying it and doing these things so that you're not trying to be, as somebody said this morning on one of these little podcasts, not trying to do all the church rituals and stuff. No, this is a reflection of your heart, that heart of flesh. And there was a picture painted, and I'm sorry, y'all, it hit me this morning. I was like, can you imagine God's heartbeat? And you can feel his heartbeat. And as it beats, it draws you, and it pushes you where you need to go. That's what it means to have a heart of flesh. It means that you can know and feel how he's guiding you. For me, that's a big deal. For me, that makes it more than worth the fact that, hey, I can acknowledge him in all of my ways. So that's why I'm asking y'all to do that. That's why we're told to do that. Again, we're looking at a piece of wisdom. So the reason I keep grabbing scriptures for y'all is because I feel like this piece of wisdom kind of captures all sorts of things. Now, the second point, don't depend on your own understanding. I have a story here, but I'm going to tell a different story because it'll be shorter, and I'm going to tell that story. My oldest is in here, so I'm going to pick on him. Don't depend on your own understanding. He's a young man going into his senior year of high school. The conversations usually go something like this. Aiden, here's what you should do. Oh, I already know that. I was already going to do that. Aiden, here's something you might want to know. Oh, I already know that. Okay, Aiden, you're not the wealth of all knowledge. You haven't experienced everything. But isn't that how we do God? He sits there and he gives us instructions. And look, people try to go back and forth about the Bible, but if you can stand on this, you get to know him. You get to start that conversation. You get some foundational truths to be able to stand with and walk with. This is important. And why I say it's important is because this other example for me, I'll never forget, my pastor shared this years ago, and I have not been able to shake it. So maybe you don't have kids, so this hopefully will speak to you a little differently. There's a young man, he's on fire for God. He's like, Lord, I'll do whatever you say. Whatever you tell me to do, Lord, I'll do it. And so God says to him, all right, you know that big rock in your front yard? Go push it. He's like, yes, Lord, I'll do it. He goes out there, he starts pushing the rock. He's trying to move that rock, and it's not going anywhere, but he keeps pushing that rock, and he's obedient. He's excited. God told him to push the rock. He's being obedient. He's pushing the rock. He finished the day. Lord, I did what you asked me to do yesterday. You told me to push the rock. I did it. What you want me to do today? Push the rock. So he's back out there. He's pushing the rock again, and he looks down, while he's pushing. He's like, it ain't going nowhere. Like, no, not even a little piece of dirt is moving. But you know what? He told me to push, so I'm going to be obedient. I'm going to push. This goes on for days, for weeks, for months. Every time he gets up, God is telling him to go push the rock. About 7 months in, he's like, no, I can't do it no more. God, you got me out here pushing this rock. It ain't changed, ain't nothing moved. I don't even see a piece of dirt that's in a different space. I can't move this rock. So God, I love him, clears his throat with thunder. He says to him, I've had you pushing the rock because look at your arms. they're now stronger. Look at your back. It's better. And look at your legs. I can now place you where I need to use you because you've taken time to be obedient in pushing the rock. Again, for me, that hit different because it's a mundane task. But when God tells us to do something, we don't have to know the next thing. We just got to be obedient in the thing that he's called us to do. Then he can place you, if he has something more for you, he'll move you. If he doesn't, let's celebrate where he used us at. Now, my wife knows I'm speaking to myself. I'm telling y'all, that's when I get opportunities to speak about his word, I get excited. It's an honor, it's a privilege. If Rebecca had been out here, if Pastor Jesse was here, I'd be like, hey, look, I want to give honor to the pastor and the first lady, because this is a privilege. But how do I do when I don't get the opportunity? That was my own personal, me and God was having some back and forth, y'all. So again, I know that we're talking about not leaning on our own understanding, but I did that in comparison to our own knowledge. What about the culture? Can't we lean into the culture? Because, it's understanding of things. Now, any of y'all that are below 21 in here will understand this example. If you're above, you'll know it too because you can say this is true. Fashion changes. That's out of fashion. Hold on, 20 years, we brought it back. Hold up. Last week on TikTok, this was the hottest thing to do. That's what everybody's doing. That's trash now. We're now doing this. Hold up, I'm in education. Here's how we go about education. And we changed from that model to the kids should guide their education. Hold it. We expose them to experiences, even the ones they didn't even know about, so they can have a better idea of what to pick from, to they tell us what they want to be exposed to. Seems kind of limited, but hey, this is the culture. It's moving. So we can lean into that, right? I hope you got the rhetorical. It's a no. Paul, he talks about it in 1 Corinthians 9:20-22. Remember, he talks about, hey, I'm a Jew to the Jews, a Gentile to the Gentiles, all that stuff. He's sitting there and he says, but I keep the law of God in my heart. So he never steps out and badly reflects God's character. He can hang out with the Gentiles because he's still going to look like God's representative. He's going to hang out with the Jews because he's still going to be God's representative. He never changes his baseline. He exposes that baseline to others. So instead of the culture impacting him, he's impacting the culture. So I love it, and I'm going to say something controversial. Hopefully I still get invited back. There's another comparison, and my wife is here, like I said, and so I think anybody who's got their spouse here, you'll understand. We can't really lean into our family because we may want the same thing per se, but maybe we don't see it the same way. Maybe how we get there isn't the same on both sides. So what draws the line? What provides the wisdom? Now, if I can expand it out to family barbecues, you got some people in your family that probably won't steer you towards Christ. Now, I'm not saying that, hey, family is bad. Obviously, I love my family. But what I'm going to speak to is when you are leaning into things, you have to decide, is this providing godly wisdom? That's the measure. That's the device. And I would say, so we want to actively choose to follow him. If you look at what Jesus says in Luke 14:26, and like I said, it's a tough one because it's translated with some hard words. And I'm going to go there because I want you to see that it's in the text. There we go. Did I do that? If anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. That's a hard word. Now, when we hear the word hate, we're probably picturing some people being mean and angry, acting towards somebody. Let me give proper context. He is saying love less. You're making him priority over even your family. By doing that, you'll still fulfill what your family needs. But he's got to be top. So that's what happens within ourselves when around our people. And I would say we got to be careful. I don't want you to be tripped up, but I want you to really think about how we acknowledge him. And I'm going to one last example for my next point, and that's simply like this. I love my children. Some of y'all heard them earlier, and they move around. They do a lot, but they're good kids. My wife, she loves to keep things organized and in order. That's her. I am not that guy. But she's in the process of training up our children. So as the day goes and she sees they pulled out all their magnets, but they're playing with something else, she'll say, hey, put the magnets away. They have a choice. They're playing with something else. She'll come by and she'll say, hey, remember you're going to have to clean that all up. You might want to put away the toys you're not playing with. And my oldest, one of the two littles, Alden, will be like, Mommy, we'll do it later. We know, Mommy. Okay. Here comes later. Uh-oh, it's bedtime. This is 7 o'clock cleanup time. It's transition. They feel overwhelmed. Mommy, I'm overwhelmed. It's too big of a mess. Mommy, no, can we do it tomorrow? I just want to sleep. I'm tired. Mommy, no, can you help us? This obviously resonates with a lot of people. How do you think it is when God is doing stuff? Hey, you don't need to go to that. Pause. You don't need to talk to that person. Hold it. Stay where you are. And we still choose to do what we wanted. And then we got to deal with the mess. They didn't have to be overwhelmed. They didn't have to be begging for help. Because the whole time she was there providing support. God's never abandoned us. The whole time he is speaking to us. So, again, that's for that one. So please don't depend on your own understanding. Now, my last big point, point 3, with all your heart. I've tried to avoid saying these words, but I've already said them a few times. It's your choice. It says with all your heart. We want to be the ones in control. We want to decide what is best. Matter of fact, I'll make it worse. We want the gift of his fire insurance, but not his lordship. So how do we move to a place where we're giving him all of our heart? Like I said, it's a choice. And the reason that this is important, and I'm not giving it enough time, so I pray that you take some time with this. Matthew 7, 22 and 23 is a sobering text. And it's sobering because here's the words that Jesus is going to say. And he's speaking out. There it is. On that day, many will say to me, Lord, Lord, didn't we prophesy in your name, drive out demons in your name, and do many miracles in your name? Then I, this is Jesus, will announce to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you lawbreakers. That, like I said, is a sobering reminder. Because in all our ways means it has to be, like I said earlier, bigger than a checkbox. Because it's not about showing up just on Sunday. It's not just say, I'm going to do right by somebody who's suffering. It's, are you really getting to know him? Are you taking time to build a relationship with God the Creator? Oh, I don't want to do that yet. God the Creator. And I want you to understand that this is a reflection of our hearts. Because for God to say that, and I think we can all speak to the fact there's been times and there's been moments when we're doing all the things that we feel we're supposed to do, but we're not really talking to him. We're just doing the things that a good Christian person should do. You don't get a pass. And I'm grateful that the kingdom gets help, because that's what I didn't say earlier. And I want to make sure I stated it, so I apologize. We got to see that everything that happens in life, everything is covered to draw people to God's kingdom, to advance his kingdom. Don't individualize your success, your glory. It's his glory, period. It's extension of his family. And the reason this is important is because if you've heard of Lecrae, he says in one of his bars, he says, his line in his song, don't want to be on cruise control, because that's when we lose control. We don't want to just be going by and be on autopilot and think that, oh, God's good with this, because we're actually not even thinking about God. We're just on cruise control. Put your hands on the wheel. Wake up. And say, hold on, how am I going to demonstrate to God I'm actively choosing? And this is the part where I'm hopefully giving some tools to be transparent. Pray and be honest with him. And for those of you who haven't exposed yourselves, if you look at the book of Psalms, there's plenty of highs and plenty of lows. You can be honest with God. It doesn't mean you're going to like everything he says, because sometimes he'll provide words of encouragement. Sometimes it'll be correction. Sometimes it'll be silence. And silence is probably the hardest one to deal with. I would just give you the comfort of knowing that sometimes it's silence because he's already given you the answer. You're praying for something he's already made clear and made known. So he doesn't speak. He wants you to get to where he's already revealed it. Remember, what he's revealed is revealed for all the generations. That's why when it comes to, I'm going to pick sex. We've heard for many years, have sex inside of marriage, not outside of marriage. And people get mad about it. I mean, we got our rights. We want sexual freedom. And there's been so many movements about this. Yet if we just rewind, look at all the heartache. Look at the catastrophes now. Look at the damage done now. And I'm not saying that anything wrong for any person. I'm saying that from this moment forward, you could choose to heed what he's already declared. It's better within the marriage relationship. He didn't say it's perfect. He said it's better. He is trying to help us avoid the pains that we see out there. Broken families are real. Kids not knowing their mother or their father is real. People having to work even harder because they're covering for another person is real. But again, they have a choice. We have a choice. We can listen to what God is doing for provision. That wisdom is already in front of us. He does not need to redeclare, oh yeah, I just want to remind you in 2026, again, it's better to have sex inside of marriage. And I'm just saying, like, if as old as I am, I still can remember me and my friends sitting there, one of my friends saying, hey, Dre, look, man, God didn't know what he was talking about, man, because we're supposed to be able to have sex now, man. It's like, that's what it is. So I was like, huh? But we're in high school. This is our conversation. I said, bro, I'm scared. And I didn't tell him I was scared for him. I just told him I'm scared. Like, that's a scary thought. How do we know that God's changed his mind? So he even now would tell you, better in marriage than outside. So that's why we need to, Again, acknowledge him in our ways. So I'm going to my last point, which was my first point that I scratched out. Trust in the Lord. How can you trust God? Oh, before I get to that, hold on. Due to everything that I've already shared, I'm simply saying now you get to choose to trust in the Lord. For me, this is when we position ourselves at his feet. This is when we are so humbly at his feet, knowing that his wisdom, his direction, his ways are simply better. And then I can hear the question, and it's usually pretty loud. How can we trust God when things don't look good? How can we trust God when things don't feel good? Like, when I'm choosing to do the things that God desires, and yet my family is hit with sickness, my family is hit with death, how can I trust God when I have a medical condition for the rest of my life? How can we trust God when the convenient and more satisfying decision in the moment is different than God's choice? This is the part where we're really having to make a choice. And I would say all these things can be summed up with how do I, during the hard and shifting seasons of life that occur and sometimes remain unchanged, how do I trust God? And this is what I want to talk to you about. I'm going to give you my one piece of advice. Allow yourself to feel what is real, but don't make a decision based off how you feel. Line that up under God. Not because it's easy, because it is work. I mean, I have friends that have lost children. I have friends that have experienced death of loved ones at a time we didn't expect it. Sometimes when we expect it, it's a little easier, but it's unexpected. So when we look at this, we have to really override our feelings and our minds and our circumstances to move us towards a place where we're choosing to trust him in spite of. And I will say it is worth it. He promises. Not me, he does. So here's the two things. The first thing is, the reason we want to move to a place where we trust God is because of who he is. I want you to understand, when you think of God, and we talked about reverencing him, we reverence him because we know that he is the Lord of Lords. We reverence him because he's the good shepherd. We trust him because he's the good Father. He is the Alpha, the beginning, and the Omega, the end. He is our sustainer. And I've said it a few times, he is our creator. And by definition, he is love. He is. That's why we choose to trust him. Because of who he is. He don't have to do anything else, but guess what the second point is? Because of what he's done. And this is going to be hard because you have to have a real picture. And I want you to take a moment. Don't go to sleep on me. Close your eyes for a few moments real quick. Picture Eden, perfect place, perfect intimacy, you and God just cruising through the garden, having conversation about the beauty of the things he's created. And then that picture is broken. Broken by sin. Broken by the choice of choosing something different than where he has guided us. You can open your eyes. Think of all the things we see in life that are occurring because of sin. Creation is still moaning and groaning, waiting to be back to what it's supposed to be. We are waiting to be restored to having a right relationship with God. Jesus' death and sacrifice and resurrection are about the opportunity to have a right relationship with God, to let him get to know you as you get to know him, and you really get to grow in that, so that when things are happening, you can be like, Lord, I don't understand what's happening around me, but I'm gonna trust you. Lord, everything seems to be caving in on me, but I'm going to trust in your strength because I don't have any. I can't take another thing hitting me right now, Lord. Please remind me that you're the one that's taking that hit. Because when we stand in him, he's the one that's carrying it all. That's why it's such a beautiful thing, because when you think about what he's done, it's like he didn't have to. He chose to. And if you're unaware, think about the people in here, even this group right here. There are people that will say, I know that God did this. And it's a testimony because they know nothing else could have settled that situation. So it's not just because he's God. It's not just because of what he's done. It's what he's doing. We're all here because we've decided to trust in God in spite of things, and we get to see that play out. And if you haven't taken that stance, if you haven't made that opportunity, my prayer is that you decide, I'm gonna trust Jesus. I'm not gonna just take his gift of salvation. I'm gonna make him Lord. And by making him Lord, that means everything about me is in submission to him. You will have peace that you will not understand. You'll have strength when you don't understand. And most of all, you'll have a community even when you don't understand. So the scripture says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not to your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will direct your path.